This is The Briefing, a podcast presented by Mussio Goodman Law Firm.
The topic today is passing of accounts, and we're here with Wes Mussio, managing partner at Mussio Goodman.
Thank you.
What is passing of accounts?
Well, that's just the lawyer fancy name for when an executor is finishing off winding up the estate and they have determined their assets and liabilities of the estate and are about to pay out the beneficiaries what they are due and owing. That's basically what passing of accounts is.
And how does passing of accounts work?
Well, it all depends on how the beneficiaries are in terms of their dealings with the executor. There's a lot of legal battles over the passing of accounts because there's an element of distrust between the beneficiaries and the executors. But let's assume for the moment it's not an easy one, because if it was an easy one, what happens is the executor sends over what's called a release and consent settlement to the beneficiary. They sign the dotted line, they get paid their money, and everyone moves on. But if the beneficiary says, hold on a second, I don't agree with some of the stuff you've done, you're paying yourself too much for executor fees, you've had too many expenses that aren't related to the estate, or you've not collected all of the assets, then what happens is the beneficiary can say, I'm not signing off on this, and you're going to have to get a court order in order to get the passing of accounts to close out the account.
What happens at the pre-hearing conference?
Okay, so a pre-hearing conference is basically when the beneficiaries say, one of them, it has to be unanimous otherwise, but one of them says, no, I don't agree with certain aspects of the accounting, and the executor won't budge. So then they have to go to what's called a registrar's hearing. So what transpires is you have a pre-hearing conference where the registrar sets up the boundaries upon which everyone works. So when I say that, the registrar will say, okay, I want all the affidavits to support your position in by X date. We're going to have the hearing for 2 days in another time. You have to produce all the documents that are necessary for the beneficiary to look through the accounting, etc. So they set up the parameters of the hearing.
What happens at the main hearing?
So at the main hearing, what transpires, usually it's by way of affidavits, but it can be oral evidence where people go and testify in person, and there'll be cross-examinations if there's some contentious aspects of it. So once the evidence is in, the registrar will have a number of different issues that are being disputed, and then the registrar, based on the evidence that was produced, will make a decision on each and every one of the issues. And then with that order or that judgment, then the executor can go off and make the final determination on the accounting and pass it without worrying about liability. So that's basically it's just like a trial or a determination of the issues that are being disputed between the beneficiary and the executor.
When should I roll over and just accept the accounting?
Well, I mean, the answer, that's a hard question to answer, and it really comes down to a personal decision on the part of the beneficiary. But I get contacted all the time about these disputes, and I say to the beneficiary, listen, what is really at stake? Is it a few $1,000s? Well, if you go and fight this all the way to a 2 or 3 day registrar's hearing plus a pre-hearing, you're paying for the lawyer from the executor to do all this, so you're going to actually lose money by fighting it. So you have to look at it from an economic point of view, and sometimes the executor is your brother or your sister, and in that case you might want to value whether or not you want to keep a relationship with them versus battling right to the end in a passing of accounts. So what I tell people is look at it from a pragmatic point of view and decide whether or not taking an approach and fighting it is worth it. And if you have any further questions on this topic or others, feel free to reach out to me at my email, mussio@mussiogoodman.com, or give me a call at 604-336-8002.